Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Killjoy Jake YouTube channel. We're talking a little strangers tonight. It's getting strange up in here. Strange days are upon us, my friends. What is up, what is up? I see some friends out there in the chat. Emma laughs a lot. Love to see it. Love to laugh a lot. Hi. Welcome, Emma. Let's talk little strangers, get a little strange. Julian Perez is saying, as I'm writing this, it's 5:42 and just finished Invincible Season 1. Oh, don't tell me I have yet to finish the first season. I know. I'm so behind. I'm crazy behind, in fact, Julian. I hope you enjoyed it, though. That's awesome. I'm only through like 3-4 episodes, but I love it so far. I don't even know what happens, and I still love it. Mary Penna's excited about Tarot, Alien Romulus, Abigail, Imaginary, Cuckoo, The Exorcist Believer, Strangers Chapter 1, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. All right. I love it. I love it, Mary. Keep throwing them out there. Logan Flores is saying, hey. What's up, dog? How you doing? Welcome in. Evan, what you doing in the chat, Evan? I see you out there. Damn. Evan's too cool to come on the channel, but he can just say hi, my boys in the chat. I see how it is. Buddy. No, I'm messing with you. I know you're at work, dude. But thanks for hopping in. Thanks for saying hey. Appreciate you. The Splattercast guys are going to come on in just a sec. I want to say hi to a few more people, and we're going to get this shit going. I'm excited. We're going to talk a little bit about The Strangers. Did I say that yet? Have I said that yet? I can't remember. Caitlin Jewell is saying, hey, Jake, my birthday just passed on Sunday. Well, happy, pretty fucking late birthday. God, 3 days late. I'm not a very good friend, Caitlin. Happy birthday. Thanks for being here on your birthday week. Appreciate you, dude. Thanks for hanging out with us. Ella saying, question, is Tamara home? I feel like I shouldn't answer that. I feel like I'm gonna get killed if I answer that, Ella. But thanks for being here. We're gonna talk a little bit about Tamara and if she's home or not. Albany Saratoga Media Collector saying, just watched Abigail, 3.5 out of 5. Solid rating. Solid, Albany. Welcome in. Dreadboy Studios, hey yo. Evan saying, I'm watching this at work, man. Making sacrifices for you. Another hour I could have joined. Come on when the Splattercast guys have to go in like an hour. So like, come on. I'll send you. You think I won't send you the link right now? Hang on. Hang the fuck on, everybody. I'm keeping my poor guests waiting behind the scenes doing this stupid shit. I don't even know what Evan's email is. You know what? They know what it is. Fuck it. We're going to get that in a second. I am going to send it to you, though. All right, real quick before I bring them on. Mr. Rick, thank you for 5 Killjoy Jake memberships, man. I appreciate the heck out of you. Thank you. Not only are you a member yourself, but you're getting everybody else into the cult. I appreciate you. I got to get a whole bunch of glasses of Kool-Aid going here. Ella has been gifted a membership. Albany Saratoga Media Collector has been gifted one. MMA Russie. Don't talk about the Russie, boys. Mystical and CM Chunk. I love to see it. Welcome to the fold, my friends. Drink up, sip up that Kool-Aid. It's just Kool-Aid, I promise, my friends. All right, let's bring on some guests to talk a little bit about The Strangers. We first have, I'm just going to bring them on together, fuck it. The duo behind Splattercast podcast, videos, live streams, bunch of good shit. We got Dylan and Luke. What's up, dudes? How's it going?
What's going on? Hey, happy to be here. This is great. I'm excited.
I'm so happy you're here, guys. You know, this fun little thing started when I did a little video talking about your Leprechaun scoop, and here we are now. Friends talking about horror movies. I love it.
Always a good time.
A better story, I tell you.
Yes. Luke, did you watch this movie? I don't even know. I didn't watch the movie, so you got to carry me here.
Pet Sematary 2.
Yes, Pet Sematary 2, right?
That's
right. Yeah, that's what we're here to discuss. Okay,
we're definitely talking about Pet Sematary 2. You have all been rused.
We got to out from under you.
Yeah, didn't think about that. No. I could talk about Pet Sematary 2. I'll tell you what. Just as long as it's not Pet Sematary Bloodlines, dear God.
Oh, you know, honestly, we didn't hate that one too much. But
really,
yeah,
okay.
I wasn't big on the remake. I was not big on the remake, so I went in expecting like really, really low expectations, and it was all right. You know, it was fun. It was definitely a good time. So I guess when you go in that low on a film, you know, it has a tendency to surprise you.
Okay. I feel it, man. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Before we start talking about The Strangers, specifically the 2008 one, not Chapter 1 or Pray at Night, not yet at least. Mr. Rick has thrown $5 in there. Want to get to this real quick. What's up, my friend? How you doing, Mr. Rick? Gifting memberships, and then you're throwing a super chat out there. You're the MVP tonight. Thank you. In my area, there's a mystery movie playing on Monday. If I'm guessing right, it might be The Strangers. I hope it's because it's only $5. Ooh. Do you guys know anything about this? I know, I think, is it Regal or AMC that does the mystery movies?
I'm pretty sure it's Regal in our area that does it. And yeah, no, I've been tempted to go a couple of times, especially when I have the time to do it. But yeah, I just haven't pulled the trigger yet because I'm always worried that it's going to be something that I'm really not interested in seeing. But Luke, have you gone to a mystery movie yet?
No, never. I haven't been to a Regal cinema in a very long time. But, mysteries, they scare me a little bit too much. After 7 and finding out what's inside the box, I just,
Not fancy.
Not a big mystery movie guy. It's too scary.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Rick, thank you for the $5, my friend. I love the mystery movies. Sometimes I sometimes hear from my friends that work at movie theaters what they are, and then I get to see movies early, which is nice. So essentially, we were just talking about Sting backstage. That's how I got to see Sting like a month early, I want to say, before that came out. So pretty cool stuff. But Mr. Rick, again, thank you for the $5. Thanks for the support, my dude. Thank you. I hope you get to see The Strangers early, dude, on Monday. That's awesome. Fuck yeah.
That would be pretty good. I'm curious. We put a couple of lines out there. We're trying to see if we can find anything, but they just don't like us enough. They're like, no, not strange enough for Lionsgate, I guess. But
not strange enough.
Either way,
of us.
We'll be there on Thursday with everybody else, unless Mr. Rick gets to see it first. We'll be there with everybody, ready to see Chapter 1. Because yeah, I'm excited. I'm a little wishy-washy on this one. I don't know, but I'm excited now. I'm looking forward to it.
Luke, how do you feel about Chapter 1?
Yeah, we did a trailer reaction a little bit ago, and I absolutely love spoiler. The Strangers 2008. I didn't have that vibe from the trailer that we saw. It seemed a little bit too in your face. We're kind of losing that voyeuristic aspect to it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sold on it. I'll go in with an open mind, but I'm hoping that they just played those familiar beats in that trailer and just to kind of familiarize the audience and then kind of give us a bunch of new content when we actually sit down in the theater. So, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not excited for it, but hey, I'm hoping for the best.
Sometimes that's all you can do, man. Sometimes that is all you can do. I'm very much so in the same boat. I'm scared that it's kind of just going to be a remake, and that would make me sad. Because I love The Strangers and Prey at Night. I love both movies, and I feel like that they're both very different. Like they're very different slasher movies, which I think is cool, even though they exist in the kind of the same universe. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what this one's all about, but I do fear that it's just going to be like a more stylistic version of the original, which brings us to tonight's topic: The Strangers, 2008. A cult classic to some. Some people have never even seen it or heard of it. I personally herald it as the scariest slasher film I've ever seen. I love it to death. I think it scares the fuck out of me. It's so real. I feel like this could actually happen. You know what I mean? You can't say that about every horror film.
Yeah, dude, we just covered this on the channel, so we got a nice fresh rewatch, and then we're getting ready for this too. So it was like getting to sit with this movie for the last 2 weeks and watch it a couple of times. It's like, this is really top notch. And at a time and an era when it was just kind of like, we're going for the most extreme gore. We're going for the Saw stuff and the Wolf Creeks, which I like that stuff too, to a degree. But this was something really special. It really harkens back to that 70s style filmmaking, but with just a little extra grit. And you're right, the realism in this is intense.
There's just so much tension in this. When we talk about it, I always end up bringing up, the original Halloween, just because you look at that film, it's just an instance before we attached, so much lore with 2 and beyond. But, Strangers, hey, it's because you're a home, and I love that aspect of it because it does have that realism in there where it's like, hey, this could happen to anyone. And your heart drops when there's a knock at the door, when you're watching the film. So there's so much great tension in here. And I absolutely love that kind of warm, homey feeling that we have. And then you kind of have these interlopers coming in and finding their way in and wreaking havoc. So this one, I hadn't watched it for a few years. And then during our review, I ended up dusting this one off. And I got to say, I think I enjoyed it more now than I did even back then.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. No, I have watched this movie many times, and I don't know, I just keep coming back to it for whatever reason. It's a very simple story, It's nothing like too overly complicated. I don't even know if it's trying to say anything, but it's just so terrifying. And I love, there's some clear like Texas Chainsaw Massacre influences. If it's the very beginning that kind of starts off with the, all the credits rolling down, you get the little bit of narration talking about how like this happens a lot in America. It's like, ooh, that's spooky. A great way, a very retro style to really introduce this movie. It's very fun to me, and and very dark. And there's nothing wrong with that. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. I want to say hi to just a few more people, and we're gonna get back to this. Catbread is with us. One of my favorites. I love Catbread so much. Just awesome. Look at that. Come on, laser eyes. Come on, nothing wrong there. Thanks for being a member, Catbread. Appreciate you. Appreciate you a bunch. Tara's with us tonight, saying, "Hey guys, hey. What's up? What's up,
Tara?"
And of course, Mr. Piss Taker. What's up, dog? I need a reason to watch this. Watch it, dude. Oh, the original Strangers is great. We are going to be spoiling it, though. Little warning. Wanted to throw that out there before we really get into the nitty gritty. So, Mr. Piss Taker, maybe don't take some piss and watch this movie instead. Dragon Ball Radiant, what's up? What's up? How you doing? Welcome in. Thanks for being with us tonight. All right, but let's get into some of the details here. We have Liv Tyler playing our lead character, Kristen McKay. We have Scott Speedman next to her playing James. And then we also have Glenn Howerton out of fucking nowhere, Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny, getting his face blown off in this movie, which is great. How do you guys feel about the cast?
The cast is solid in this. I think, Liv Tyler, I think, steals the show, especially in this. There was a section of this that I kind of felt myself almost like not being super into when we talked about it in our discussion, but I rewatched it again just after getting Luke's perspective on it. And I feel like I got a lot more out of her performance the second go around, strangely, no pun intended. But like, I really think that she steals it. Like, Scott Speedman's pretty good in this. I do agree with our buddy Evan. If you haven't checked out his video, he gives a nice little kind of breakdown of just what he has the issue with Scott Speedman is. And like, I kind of agree with him on some aspects, but he's still serviceable, especially towards the end of this. It's so heartbreaking. Like, I'll save that point for a little later, but like when that's happening and you really see those two together, it's like, damn, this is rough. This is a tough watch.
And, I love the character dynamics in this thing. Like, when we open up, there are so many couples, like, that are portrayed in film that, we start off in a great place. We're not in a great place. And we don't exactly know the entire fallout of the situation until they kind of breadcrumb us. And we're figuring out exactly what had happened. And then you go into the cabin, and there are rose petals everywhere. And it was supposed to be a romantic night. And I think, Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler, they just play off each other so well. And I think the dynamic between the two work. When me and Dylan had discussed it, and Liv Tyler is in the cabin by herself when Scott Speedman goes out, I think that's really where she has that chance to shine, because, there's so many outside forces. And if she doesn't sell that, I think the entire film falls flat, because at that point it's on her shoulders. So, for me, that's one of my favorite elements to it. And, when Scott Speedman comes back into the equation, I think it really does work, because you see this, again, the fallout of the relationship, and we don't know exactly why, because they seem loving, but then, Scott Speedman's character makes some odd decisions, and I can always see that being like a point of contention between the two. So I think, kind of giving us that story without too much exposition. We always have those exposition dumps that kind of we find a little bit boring. I think they give us just enough with these characters. The only critique I have is that, I love Glenn Howerton, but what if we had Danny DeVito in that role? Come on.
I'm the trash man. He comes in there, gets his face blown off. That actually would be great. I can't complain about that at all. No, I feel you on the couple though, big time, because I've seen so many, especially horror movies, where it's like, oh, this couple, they love each other, and you have to like them too because we're about to kill them. That only works so many times. I've seen it many, 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 many times in horrors, slashers, whatever. And it's cool that we have this couple that is struggling with this new place in their relationship. We have Scott Speedman's character proposing, and Liv Tyler's maybe just not ready for that, or maybe doesn't like him. There's you learn a lot about these characters as you go on. There's this whole like B plot that I really like. I think it's actually really well written. They didn't have to do that, but the fact that they did, once again, makes this one stand out and makes all of its elements not just the horror elements feel real again, which is another big thing that adds to the realism, even though it is more of a minute side plot thing. But I love it. I think it works really well to get me on board with these characters. I do just kind of like that Glenn Howerton hops into this movie to die and then pieces out, though. I'm not gonna lie, like that cracks me up. I don't know if it's the best writing, but it makes me laugh.
It's one of those moments that when I first saw this movie, obviously I didn't know who he was. I wasn't watching Always Sunny. I was like pretty young. So like seeing him pop into this and knowing that he was in it, like years later after being such a massive Always Sunny fan, it just gets a smile out of me. And yeah, it's a little kind of like, okay, yeah, that was interesting, but like who knew who he was back then, really? I think this was pre Always Sunny, right? Because didn't that start in like what, 2010, 2011? Or was that
say that on? That was going on. That was like through the thousands.
Holy shit. Oh my god, that show's been on forever.
It has. Yeah.
But yeah, no, he always gets a chuckle out of me, and he's not bad. I mean, he's only in it for a short time, but like the effect they put on him, the makeup actually looks pretty solid. I was pretty impressed by that.
If I had a nickel for every time I watch this film and have to go check IMDb to clarify that is Glenn Howerton, because it seems like no matter how many times I've seen The Strangers, it's still jarring to me. I'm like, this does not compute, because I know him from It's Always Sunny, and it's like, wait, he's just randomly popping up in such a great horror film. But it's just a small part, but I think that's kind of the charm of this film, where it's so serious, and they didn't know what they were doing at the time, and how It's Always Sunny was going to take off like it was, and how prominent Glenn Howerton was going to be. But it's something that's one of those fun tidbits, because it's going into that and then just being like, every time I get a little chuckle, even though we're in a very serious instance, you can't help but think about the dentist system.
I don't know. I just see he's one of those actors where I just see his face and I laugh. Like I'm just thinking about Dennis Reynolds, Golden God, him getting all angry and shit. I just love it. But I think the biggest thing with his character is the fact that we have Scott Speedman shoot him in the face on accident. That to me is one of the most tragic parts of this whole movie. Of course, the ending is the most, but that's an underrated sequence that doesn't get talked about enough from this one.
It's so quick too, and I mean, like by the time that you actually like realize what's going on and what has happened, and they realize it as the characters do, they don't have much time to breathe or sit with it. Like things just keep escalating, and it is one of those things where it's like he's kind of got to take in the fact that not only is he being chased and stalked by these masked killers, but he just shot his brother in the face, and it's like that's God, man. James really goes through it. And before that, his relationships on the rocks, like it's a bad night for James all in all, man. Like
can't catch a break. But like that's what I like about it as well. There's no ceremony, and sometimes in these horror films where a prominent character dies, and then all of our leads kind of get to have their moment in terms of kind of living with what had just happened, where this one, you're looking at Glenn Howerton on the floor, and then you're right back into the situation, because that threat does not stop. And that's what I like when we talk about that realism here, that there are these realistic takes here. It's not something where we're going to have those beats. This really does feel like a real instance that can actually happen. And those are those aspects that I really do love here, where it just feels so real, because, hey, I'll admit when I watch Strangers, I'm looking outside, make sure I don't see any guy in a sack head or a doll face outside staring at me, because Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, they're all great, but Strangers is that different terror that we don't get that often.
Yeah, and I think it's so much fun to watch, Jason murder a bunch of camp counselors. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I've ever actually been scared of Jason or Freddy. Like they crack me up. I love watching them. It's a different attraction. I've always said that like horror is not always here to terrify you. Sometimes it's just to have fun with this absolutely ridiculous concept that it might have some dark elements to it, and that's okay. That's not that's not always the goal of horror. But I do love me a good slasher or horror flick in general that has a dark ending, especially like this one that we're talking about. There's something about it that solidifies that terror. The fact that it takes place at like a house, I think too, is typically where I watch movies, at least is like at my place, so it's like the scariest place that a slasher can come into is your house, you know what I mean? Like that's way more terrifying than somewhere in public, in my opinion. At least it's more vulnerable. So that's why I've just always said like this is the one that scares me the most. Like there's so many good actually scary slashers out there that are less leaning away from the silliness, but this is the one that just fucks me up the most. I'm curious, Dylan, what is the scary meter on this one for you?
This one's got me pretty good this time around. Like I said, it's been a long time. This was kind of something I went into a little bit in our video at the start, was like, for me growing up, this was the movie on the playground that, like, when I would be talking to friends or somebody, like, there's always those kids whose parents would let them watch horror movies and stuff that was even a little too intense for my parents. They were real easy with the creature features and stuff. With me, that's all good. But, you know, people running around with masks stabbing each other, that one maybe we'll save a few years. So this one was kind of like the ghost story for me. Like, I just remember kids saying how, oh, it's based off a real thing. These people are real. They went and they murdered them and they wear these masks and it's so intense. So, like, it really got built up in my head, and I saw it years later and it did freak me out. But, like, now that I'm older and, you know, I've got my own house, and, you know, you're kind of really sitting with the implication of just like what the right?
I see what you did there.
Of what the characters are going through and what they're dealing with. It is one of those things that I feel like it's getting more under my skin the more that I sit with it. And again, rewatching it recently, it's just like, yeah, the idea that, like, someone could just be lurking around my house, and, like, the fact that they get in and they don't know. It's always those movies where it's like, they could break in, you're waiting for the character to break in. Like Hush is one of those, where Mike Flanagan, characters constantly trying to get in the whole movie. But the fact that, like, you're waiting for that, and then they're sackheads just behind Liv Tyler at one point, it's like, oh, these fuckers already found their way in forever ago. Like, we're so
They're
boned
fucking
here,
with her.
dude.
Yeah.
Like, we're so boned. This is bad. Like, it's terrifying. It's up there for me, scary meter wise.
And for me, I gotta say, you know, this one, it's up there as well. It gets under my skin still, just because of the tone of it and the tension that they bring. Where, like I talked about at the beginning, where it's got this, you know, warm aesthetic almost, where it feels homey. You know, Scott Speedman's like, hey, let me light you a fire before I go get you cigarettes. You know, so it's like, you know, we're in for this. We're gonna feel at home in the living room in a sense. But then as soon as, you know, Liv Tyler gets up, and we're in the kitchen, and we see our sackhead gentleman, you know, come out, and he's just staring at her. You know, that voyeuristic aspect of it just absolutely freaks me out. And, you know, it's one of those things where you look at it and you're supposed to feel safe in your own home. You know, it's like anyone comes in here, hey, I'm gonna Kevin McAllister them, and, you know, I have the upper hand here. But, you know, it's like looking at it, hey, they're in your house and she has no idea. And it's like, you think you're trying to keep them out and that threat's outside, but hey, they've already found their way in and they're just toying with you at that point. So it's kind of like, what's gonna happen here, you know? And I think when you're watching those films and you start kind of getting paranoid a little bit, I think Strangers is that prime film where, you know, you start looking outside. Hey, I check the ADT and see if anyone's on the porch, you know, because it freaks me out that much. So this one is really up there just because of that realism and the tension they do bring here.
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. And I love what you hit on just now with the idea of, like, these characters are fucking with them a little bit. I think they have multiple opportunities to just go in there and kill the couple, but that's not why they're there. You know what I mean? Like, they play with their food a bit, which is like another thing that I love about these killers is that while literally there is one sentence that they utter out of the three of them in this entire movie, you learn so much about their characteristics through the way that they act. You know what I mean? Like, they're literally actively toying with their victims this entire time, just playing, like, totally playing with their food. They have the upper hand the whole time, and you as the audience member see that, of course, but these characters do not. And I think that's literally emphasized in the scene we were just talking about with the mask excuse me, the man in the mask hanging out behind her. That's terrifying. Like, oh, I love that so much. To me, it is one of the scariest aspects of the whole thing. Just him hanging out in the background there. Gross shit. Who's your favorite stranger? Just out of curiosity. I don't know if you guys have given any thought to that, but
it's Sackhead. I mean, like, look at our logo. We have a Sackhead killer on there.
Dumb question, huh?
He's so good. No, perfect question. You're not dumb. It's one of those classic looks that I feel like they just nailed in this one. I don't know why, but, like, we were talking about this either off air or during the video at some point, where we're just like, that's one thing about this movie that's really stood the test of time, is, like, you know who the strangers are just based off their masks. Like, you could put that up and people are going to recognize that, and more than likely are going to be able to say, That's The Strangers. And, you know, that's so rare, especially for slasher films that aren't Halloween, Friday the 13th, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I really got to commend this film for actually having unique looks that stick with people and just being really simple. But the Sackhead for me, I want it. I want it on a dummy in my background somewhere. It's just that iconic and creepy to me.
Yeah, I'm not original. It's going to be the Sackhead as well. It's just, you know, looking at that character, and we talked about it in our video, where, especially when you see Liv Tyler in the kitchen and he's back there staring at her, he almost blends into the background. I love that aspect of it where it's like there isn't a spotlight on him. You know, if you could think your eyes are playing tricks on you if you just glance at it, but he's back there staring. And I think, you know, kind of melding him into that background makes it even scarier. And I'll say the one part that I find just terrifying is when Liv Tyler's in the closet and she's like staring at him and he's like walking through. The way he carries himself, he's kind of got a little bit of a hunch. He looks real tall, and then he's sitting down and just kind of like staring off. It's just absolutely creepy. The actual design is great, but the performance there is, I think, you know, sometimes goes untalked about just because of how great the actual look is, but the way it's played just is absolutely terrifying. Just he has this casualness to, hey, we're just going to be killing some folks today. And let me just sit by the fire here and kind of collect my thoughts real quick, you know. So for me, yeah, Sackhead, they're all great, but I think, you know, with just that kind of aesthetic, I think he wins the race.
And they channel that Michael Myers energy in that scene so well, with him just being like, yeah, I'll do whatever I want. I don't care. I'll play with him.
I also think one of my favorite moments from him, he's my favorite too. We're super unoriginal here. Come on now. No, but I really think my favorite moment with him in like the whole movie, hilariously enough, is right after you have Dollface saying, "Because you were home." He just looks over at her like almost shocked a little bit. I really like that little reaction. You know, they say like acting is reacting and all that. And again, the performance there, I just think is the best from the three. Even in little things like that is what makes something blow up on screen, I think. And I just love that. It makes me laugh a little bit, even though that's like the darkest fucking scene in the whole movie. It's just like, I could just see the mental process of, wow, you're just going to talk to him. Okay, yeah, fuck it. We're doing this now. So it's funny. It makes me laugh.
And to add to that, sorry, but like I gotta jump on this now or I'll forget.
Yeah.
The whole thing at the very end, that conversation where she's like, "It'll be easier next time." Like I never picked up on that look, like that. You know, like I see it, I saw it, visually, it's there, but like I'm so caught up in the moment that it's like that is so like observant. Like good job on you, because that just adds another layer to this movie where it's like, shit, yeah, he might be the most uncomfortable here, and he's the scariest motherfucker there. Like, oh my god, that's wild. This movie's great, honestly. It's really solid. I'm loving it the more we talk about it.
I know. I just want to suck this movie's dick, but to follow up to follow up question that though, I'm curious what you guys think of the designs in the new movie based off of the 2008 film. Do you like one more than the other, or vice versa?
I'll say that I think the Sackhead, I'm not loving it. I think it's a little too loose and not as like pronounced as the original one was. I kind of liked that it was a bit more like skin tight in the original, and I think that's what set it apart from just your standard, you know, potato sack. And like that's been a bit of a disappointment. As far as the other two masks go, I haven't seen that much of a difference. I haven't paid that close attention to the new masks like that closely, but like that one for sure, it does leave me a little bit like, okay, that's, I guess if you got to do something different, I mean, sure, I guess that's how you would do it.
Yeah, and I don't know, I just wasn't a big fan of that trailer overall, so I'm always going to gravitate toward the original. I think, you know, even lighting wise, that the remake, whatever they're calling it, it just has a different feel to it, different vibe. And, you know, when talking about the Sackhead, it was just, you know, that warm aesthetic where he blends in. I didn't get that. There's so much of a focal point during the trailer of everything. It seems just like, I don't want to say action, but it feels actiony where we're running. We're losing that slow, methodical feel that we had of the original trailer, because when that had originally come out, I went back and looked at the original trailer just to see how they compared, and I really like that voyeuristic aspect of the original. And originals always win, unfortunately. Now, do you guys think that if, and again, I don't know how this is tying in, is this a prequel, or is this, are they?
We don't know. We don't know for sure.
Now, do you think they should have switched designs completely, or always stick with those original three?
It's really tough to say. I'm not crazy about some of the choices made with the design. Like, it's one thing if you're like, okay, we're gonna do the Man in the Mask, but a little different. Like, okay, everyone's gonna have a favorite, when you do something slightly different. But we have Dollface wearing a beanie, and I don't understand why. You know what I mean? I think such a big iconic look for the character is the long blonde hair, and I just don't know. I don't know why that's been lost. Maybe it's like maybe it's a design thing where it's like, okay, she's trying to cover up her identity a little more so that she's less recognizable. I don't know. I think that makes her less scary though, because another thing I love about the ending of the original Strangers is how they take their masks off before they kill them. It's almost like you can see our face because you're gonna die. You can't tell the police if you're dead. That's horrifying. That's ooh. So I kind of think putting the beanie on, it's almost losing that immediately. I haven't seen the movie, obviously. Maybe it does end with them taking the masks off and killing Madeline Pesh and Froy Gutierrez from this new movie, but I don't know. I just think the design choices are strange. I'm speaking all over the place here. It's crazy, but thoughts about that, Luke? Like, what do you think about that beanie?
Okay.
Am I too picky?
No, I agree with you with the hair, because it's like that look again. I think I'm always going to gravitate to the original, but like what you're saying is, I don't know if she's covering up her identity. I'm hoping, and we're getting 3 films, so I don't know. The scariest thing is about The Strangers is that it was just an instance. There was no deep-rooted connective tissue in terms of, hey, we got to handhold the audience and say, connect this dot, connect that dot, and here's our motive. There was no motive here, and that's the scariest part. So, it could be that she's covering up an identity, and I hope we don't get some sort of unveiling to say, that oh my gosh moment, or so they want us to do, because I think that's going to lose the charm of that original. It's going to lose the tension. It's going to lose the fear. So, I think basics always your best bet. I am in 100% agreement with the long blonde hair coming out of the mask. It's just such an iconic look. And, if you're going to go with, Dollface, Pinup Girl, Sackhead, if you're going to retread that, I'm recommending don't mess with it just because it is iconic for that. So if you were going to mess with it, why not just do different versions of everything? But I digress.
For me, I don't necessarily hate it. I think especially because the way this has been pitched a couple of times, I mean, probably over a year ago, was that this was technically supposed to be a prequel. But I mean, they've changed so much. We didn't know that it was even going to be all coming out in 1 year at one point. We knew it was going to be called Chapter 1. And then we're hearing now that apparently this was a long 4-hour or 5-hour long movie that they just split into 3 parts. So it's like, shoot, maybe this is all just going to be one long story, and each part is just going to lead directly into the other. And but the only thing that gets me about that is exactly that line we just talked about, where it's like, it'll be easier next time, where it's like, if it is a prequel, why would she say something like that? I don't understand, because it's like, if this is not their first kill, maybe this takes place between the first and Prey at Night. Is Prey at Night even in the factor? There's just so many things up in the air, and I think that might be where most of my excitement comes from, because it's like, I do want to see where they're going with this. Even though the trailer didn't blow me away, I am really rejuvenated by watching the first Strangers again, and I'm gonna watch Prey at Night before we see Chapter 1 this week. But I don't know, I feel like there's too many unknowns for me to definitively say, yeah, I'm writing this off, or I'm not excited. I'm looking forward to it. I just hope it pays off in a big way.
No, I feel you 100%, because I'm so worried that they're going to make it they're going to overcomplicate it or make it something it's not, something that's gone through my head. And I really don't think this is the route they will take. But if this is a continuation from Prey at Night and they make it like supernatural in some sense, I feel like that takes away. See, I see your face, Dylan. Like that would suck, right? That just takes away such a big element of what makes the original and arguably Prey at Night so good. You know, like Prey at Night's a little more stylistic. It's a little more like 80s feeling. You got the bright, you know, neon light colors and all that, the musical score over attack sequences and all that. It's a little more stylistic. Some people weren't crazy about that. I vibe with it. It's fun because I think the realism is still there for the most part. It gets a little crazy in the third act, but I vibe with it. It's a sequel. You got to go, you know, what did Randy say about sequels? You got to make them bigger, bloodier, crazier, and I would say that movie is that. So I vibe with it. I'm a fan of Prey at Night. I think I like the first one a little more, but I really enjoy Prey at Night. It's a very good sequel. I don't think this is going to be a continuation from that, though. It's got to either be a prequel or, like you guys were saying, in between, or maybe its own separate universe. This is just a brand new version of The Strangers. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if we need a prequel to that story, though, if that's what it is. So I'm still on the fence with a lot of elements to doing 3 Strangers movies. You know, it's like, are we going to over-explain things too? What's your guys' biggest worry with The Strangers chapters 1, 2, and 3?
My biggest worry is this first film. I don't want it to be what it looks like as being just a straight retread, and then the movie ends and it's like, okay, well, at least part 2 and 3 will be a new story, because that's the last thing I want. This looks from the trailer like it's just going to be this film without any of the atmosphere, without any of the tension, and it's just going to be on fast forward, and that's what I don't want. But I mean, I'll sit through it because, again, the one caveat to that I think boosts this a little bit, apparently we don't have to wait very long for part 2. We only have to wait a couple months. It's not like I'm waiting 2 years for the next part, and then it's like, okay, now we get to see the movie that you wanted to show.
It's back to back, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like Dylan said, I'm just worried about going to the theater for this first film and sitting down and watching a retread with any of the gravitas of the original. Because, you know, if you're taking the property, I think, you know, I would have a displeasure with, you know, a less quality film called The Strangers Chapter 1. But, you know, if it's its own voice and they're doing their own thing and not just retreading a superior film, then, you know, I'd be a little more accepting of it. Probably not happy about it, but, you know, I'd be intrigued to see where Chapter 2 is going to go. You know, so I think kind of this jumping off point is going to probably be the rockiest portion of it. At least I hope so. Where it's like, if we get on a good trajectory with this first film and we could say, I'm actually intrigued for Chapter 2 of what story they're going to tell. I just want some originality because, again, we're talking the 2008 version and it's so well done. It's hard to really match up for that. So I'm really hoping they have something more up their sleeve in terms of that trailer where it's just that retread and they were just trying to familiarize the audience. And they're going to, you know, have those familiar beats, just a handful of them, and then really go off and start telling their own story that they're going to tackle for a 2 other chapters. So I'm just hoping for some originality and that we're not just sitting there with that retread of, you know, it's more fast paced, it's more in your face. We don't have the tension. We don't have that voyeuristic aspect of it because those are the points that make that original great. So, you know, I just want a unique voice here. So if you're going to give us something that's going to be worthy to tell 2 more chapters, I'm here for it. But it's going to be that rocky start. You know, unfortunately, I feel like within 30 minutes, I'm going to know whether I'm going to like this movie or not when I'm sitting in the theater.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm worried about too. I just really hope that they find a way to set up this bigger story, probably like in the background, right? Like they're probably going to be setting up some more things to come in like the later movies as we go through this journey. I just, man, watching that trailer, I'm like, this looks like a remake of the original film and nothing else. And I don't know. Like nobody wants a remake of The Strangers. It's great how it is. And on top of that, like I think there is a cool story that you can tell here. Just try to give me something different. Try to give me something where it's like where we can set up a full story and not just do what, you know, Halloween ended up doing, where it kind of fizzles out by that third new entry. So that's something I'm also worried about. Is that, you know, we're stretching this across 3 movies. Do we need that? Do we need three Strangers movies? Is that going to be a story that feels like it? Okay, yeah, I'm glad it was 4.5 hours long when we get to that supercut, which will hopefully be in theaters. I'm totally seeing that, by the way. I don't know if I'm sure you guys know about the supercut. I'll hold my pee. I'll make it happen.
I would love to if it pays off. If I really like even if even if this was what happens, okay? So like, say the first 40 minutes of this movie are remake, retread, we're going through it. But say we get to that point where they have them tied up and they're about to stab them to death and they break out. And, you know, now they're giving it back to the strangers a little bit. You know, if they just start diverging at that point and we can get maybe the last 30 minutes or so, I don't know how long. Is this like an hour and a half or an hour 40?
Yeah, like that. I think it's like 90 minutes, yeah.
But like, as long as the last section of it is enough of a jump off, and it's like, okay, we wanted to bring you guys in, give you something familiar, but at the end we give you that taste. But I'm not saying the last 10 minutes, I'm saying the last like half hour. We give you a new taste, a new direction. This is where we're going. Then yeah, and 2 and 3 are different, and they're a new story, and they're going with it. Then yeah, I'm totally down. I'd love to watch it all in succession. Plus, I mean, I'm all for like it, especially if they shot them back to back. There is a level of confidence there. I said this with them moving Terrifier 3 up, 2 weeks, where it's like there's a level of confidence from the studio, from the filmmakers when you do stuff like that. When you shoot films right in succession like that, they have to have some kind of an idea of like, okay, this is going to be something big. And they are really doing a lot of clever marketing with this film. They're really trying. They're not long leg style. They're not doing what Neon's doing, but they're doing some stuff, and I appreciate that. So I'm hoping that they nail it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping we go into this thing. Like, I would be all for them if we're, watching this film in 30 minutes is like that retread, but then they're giving us that new content to be like, oh, what's the next hour going to look like here? I really want this to have that feel. We talked about Glenn Howerton in the original, not having that ceremony where we're just kind of, oh my gosh, he's dead. Now we're dealing with the threat outside, where I want those all bets are off. We don't know what's going to happen, where the story's going to go. I just don't want this to feel familiar. I don't want them really to feel like they're trying to do the same beats and making this a less than film. But, we mentioned that, their marketing is really smart, and you said that giant cut. So we're talking to the art popcorn buckets. How about we get a stranger's piss bucket for the extended?
Oh, yeah.
Let's start a petition right here.
Let's do it.
Make it look like the man in the mask just having his mouth open.
There,
like
there
that?
Perfect. There it is. Everyone in the theater just pissing at the same time.
Look, Dune fans are going to be fine with that, okay? They did some other things to their popcorn bucket that you definitely can't do in public. So, I don't know. I mean, I think it would work. But
I guess you could bring your Dune bucket if you want. Diversify.
Yeah, look. I
guess
it
depends on how good the movie is.
Yeah. It better be that good, tell you what. But we have also learned some very interesting things about this movie from director Renny Harlin that I want to ask your guys' takes on. So we will learn who Tamara is, finally. You don't care?
She was never like, especially in this first one, it's like Tamara was just a name. It was literally just a name that they said. I never took it as like it's supposed to mean something. It's just, hey, are they here? No, what are you talking about? They're just fucking with them. Who cares? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
But what if? What if they went to the door, someone named Tamara, just happenstance, was there? Would they just leave them alone if they were named Tamara? And why?
That's the end of the third chapter. When they just described, they go to the next door. It's like, oh, you're good. Cool, whatever.
Fourth stranger is what it was. They have that extra mask, and she's supposed to be there to join him. That's what
they
it was.
recruit her? Yep. Oh, my God. But any theories on that, guys, or no? Are you just kind of like, nah, I don't give a shit?
I haven't thought about it, really. It's just kind of like, oh, that's I don't want that. I don't care. Like,
Those are the things that scare me, where it's like, hey, we're going to find out who Tamara is. And it's like, I don't think anyone's been clamoring since 2008 to wonder who Tamara is, and where we kind of get into, all these backstories with villains and these elaborate backstories and how we have this connective tissue. I don't think we need that here. Again, the randomness was the terror here. So if we're going to over-explain everything, it's just going to lose something in translation, I think. And, it's not going to make me as excited or as tense watching that original film. So, I don't think we need those over explanations. It's probably just going to be such a small tidbit that's probably just going to, with a wink and a nod, but it's like, I don't even think we need that in a horror movie, really. It's just something that no one's clamoring for. I certainly don't care about it. I just give me something original.
Yeah, and that's the thing I'm obviously the most worried about, is they're going to over-explain it and just crush that like terrifying ambiguity with these characters. I think that's the strongest element to the whole film, personally. This 2008 movie, I just love that. It's like you don't get a reason why it happens. There's no satisfaction. This is just a movie of pain, and I'm hoping that carries over here. I don't need chapter 3 to be this triumphant ending. You know what I mean? More than anything, I think it would be more strangery if we set up this big story to have this super devastating ending over anything, which I know some people don't like to hear. The Scream fans out there are like, no, we want happy music playing at the end. I want to see the sunset as our characters walk into it covered in blood. I don't. Not for The Strangers. No way. No, this has got to have a dark ending or I'm going to be sad. With that, though, another extension to that question. Do you think we will get completely laid out, cemented, what the motive is for our strangers after the credits roll on chapter 3? And do we want that?
So I'm actually a little different on that. I know Luke's probably going to be big no on that. I'm open to it if they are creative, if they have a way to take it. If it's not just, this is why we're doing it, that's what it is, and good night. If they're explaining why they're doing it, but they add more to it. And I only mean that by like, what if chapter 2 or chapter 3, we're seeing everything from their perspective? It's no longer just, hey, we're doing this like because we're actually seeing them. Maybe they're normal people and we see them get together and they do this thing. We just see it from the opposite angle. I think, like, honestly, that'd be a really interesting middle chapter. I think if they were to do that, now I don't think that's really where they're going to go with it, but I think like having the movie, the first one, be pseudo retread with some differences, okay. The second one be that drastic of a different like perspective could be really cool, and then that third one kind of crescendo the stories together would be neat. But I don't know. That would be the only way that I would be accepting of it, if they do something creative or they really justify it. Other than that, it just takes away the impact. Again, it's just another element that it's like, I don't necessarily need it. Now, I know there are Strangers fans who would love all of that, who would love justification. They'd love to know who Tamara is. I'm just not that big of a Stranger fan to need that. I love the movie. I really enjoy it, but it's like I'm cool with the mystery.
Yeah, and of course, if the narrative allows and we're off to some great story, then hey, I'm all for some sort of explanation if that's what we want to do. But I guess my big hesitation was that we're dusting off the IP for The Strangers, and that opening, that pitch is, hey, you guys ever wonder who the strangers are? And that was the entire situation of, hey, that's why we're doing this. It's a catalyst of where we just want to tell the story of the strangers and we're working backward. And it's like, I don't want that. If the story allowed for that and you had this great epic story and you're like, well, we could apply this kind of to the strangers universe with minor alterations and make this fit, then hey, I'm all for that. But if we're only telling a 3-chapter story here just with the goal to say this is who Tamara is, this is who the strangers are, and we're not leaving any sort of mystery out there, because when they drive off at the end and they run into those little boys and they take the pamphlet and they just get back in the car and they drive off after doing these horrific murders, it's just like they're still out there and we don't have a reason. You could be next. But then it's like, hey, well, Sackhead was related to this lady and he's hated her for this long because she made fun of him in high school, and it's like now he's back to get her. Well, it's like that takes away the terror because it's something we've seen a million times. It's not original, but if you're going to present me with a really intriguing story and you're just going to so happen to tell me the backstories of these characters, I'm all for it. But sitting here right now before seeing that first chapter, I don't think we need it.
I'm with you too, Luke. I don't think we need it. I would have much rather have taken like one more movie, like just a third chapter where it's just the strangers harassing a new group of people that are at home or at an Airbnb. Fuck it. I would have been so fine with that as long as it wasn't just the exact same movie of the first one or the second one. I much would rather live in that universe and that alternate reality that probably exists, which is maybe wonderful, but Whatever this ends up being, I am with you guys in the idea that I'm a little more excited for chapters 2 and 3 versus chapter 1, because I feel like in a way they're almost obligated to kind of do like something similar to what's been done in the past to get the fans back on board, to get like the new generation maybe even involved, which sucks. I hate even making that argument, because it's like, for the people who've seen the 2008 film a million times, we're like, okay, we've seen this before. I don't want to see this again. But I'm here to set up a weirder story, and that's what I'm really hoping for. I'm hoping for a fun, some kind of continuation that is worth our time and doesn't ruin what we already love about the franchise. 2 and 3 are definitely the ones I'm looking forward to the most, for sure. We did have some questions from the audience that I wanted to bring up that I thought were really good. Dragon Ball Radiant asks, why do they abandon all of their stealth during the next movie? Is it ever explained? I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that. Do you feel that there's a big difference in the character portrayals from 1 to Pray at Night?
I think there's a lot of difference in just the films in general. We said it a little bit earlier, where it's like they're going for a totally different vibe. Like, there's definitely still kind of that stalk and slash element, but they really go a lot harder into that 80s. We're having a little bit more fun with it, the slasher stuff. Like, obviously the iconic pool scene with all the color and everything in there is really well done. But I think the biggest reason why they might be ditching that element, and granted it's been a few years, I watched that one a couple years ago and I'm rewatching it soon, is just that they're in a very different setting, in a much more deserted setting. So I don't think there's that need to be as cautious, because there were still other houses, they were wide properties, but there were still other homes around with people inside, theoretically. And here they weren't in like a trailer park or something of that nature, almost like maybe a camping development place. But that's my justification for it, is they didn't need to be as stealthy. They could have played a different game with their victims.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I watched Pray at Night a couple years ago. I only gave it a passive watch because, to be honest, I was in it for, I was like, oh, I'm here for the tension of the original, and I just did not feel that going into it, because like we're talking about, they abandoned their stealth. It just feels very different. It wasn't what I remembered that I loved so much about the original, so it didn't necessarily hit that much for me. I do have to go back. Everyone recently has been talking so positively about it. I'm gonna actually have to sit down and rewatch that one, because I think there was a disconnect for me watching the first original one and then going into Pray at Night. It just feels so different, and I think I was left with those questions as well, because it didn't feel like it was in the same vein of that original. So I think I had a bone to pick with that as well.
It is a different approach. Like, I will tell you that. If you're looking for more of the Brian Bertino film, you kind of won't find it in Pray at Night. But I kind of look at it as like Texas Chainsaw Massacre to TCM 2, if that makes sense. Like, how they're kind of the same thing, but like the tone is completely different, like two ends of a spectrum different. So that's kind of why I enjoy Pray at Night, because it's more of like the stylistic modern slasher that feels like, oh, we're trying to get a throwback to like the 80s or something like that. That's how it comes off to me. And if you can get into that, you can vibe with Pray at Night. I also think the pool sequence, which I don't know if you remember it all that much, that's like one of my favorite scenes from this entire franchise so far. It's very intense. Maybe the most intense scene of the second movie, like, without a doubt. So
it's the standout scene in that movie that always sticks in my head. Like, even though, like I said, it's been a while, I still remember watching that scene and being like, okay, this is really cool. Like, this is a really smart idea. This is a really unique idea. And I just thought that there was a lot of great, like, 80s slasher energy in that sequence. And I had fun with it.
Yeah, that's definitely the most iconic scene. I honestly, watching it, as I said, I gave it a passive watch. I remember actually sitting down during the pool scene and like focusing in on that, because it is well done. I think that's probably the takeaway scene of the entire film. When you're talking about that one's always going to come up.
Yeah, so again, I totally get why people don't like Pray at Night. I vibe with it for different reasons, other than like what the first one is all about, I guess, is my point. But
I love that comparison you made too, by the way, for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I'm a defender of that movie. Like, I love it. I adore the first film. It is a masterclass of cinema. But like, the second one is so different and so satirical. I have so much fun with that movie. I adore that movie.
I was at a horror convention not like this past March, but like 2023 March, and they had like the Vinegar Syndrome release of it. Like, dude, I picked it up so fast. I didn't buy like anything at that convention either. I was like, oh, I gotta save my money. I'm super broke right now. I saw that it was like $35 or something. I'm like, fuck it. I actually need that. I love that movie to death. I told another movie where like I get why fans of Texas Chainsaw Massacre hate it, but I just love it. Like it is so much fun to me. From start to finish. We had a goofy question here I wanted to throw out there too. ASMR Nocturnal is saying, Jake, Splattercast, hoping you see this, but I have a question. How do you think it would go if the strangers wandered into the House of Wax, specifically the remake house? Vincent and Bo, no bias, who'd win? Who's winning that versus fight?
I have to admit, I've never seen the remake of House of Wax.
Oh.
I have never seen it. I've only seen the original, and it was because when we worked at Buybacks, Luke, I got a DVD pack with like a bunch of old horror movies on it, just in like a pass box, and that was one of them on there. So I threw it on one night when I was partaking in some devil's lettuce with some friends, and yeah, that we watched some of that and some of the other ones. I think Attack of the Killer Shrews was another one, but I've never seen the remake. I know it's very infamous with a lot of people. It's a blind spot for me.
Oh man, that's a tough question, but you know, going into it, I think if we're talking the strangers are gonna wander into the House of Wax, and we're talking they got a whole setup there. It ain't just one house. I think that strangers are going to be in for a little more than they bargained for, you know, and I would be very intrigued to see Sackhead Wax you guys. So that'd be really interesting. So, you know, I think the strangers would have a handful with the two brothers.
I think so too. I think it would be a pretty even match, man. It's interesting. It's interesting to say. I think that's such a very out of nowhere question, which is why I wanted to bring it up. But dude,
it makes sense. It's such a
I see it, right?
Question.
Yeah, they're oddly compatible slashers, which, like, what? That's so strange. No, I vibe with it, though. And Dylan, you should watch that remake, because it's one of those, like, kind of underrated, weird movies that some people hate, some people love. But I think that's why I recommend it.
It's fun to rewatch. That one I do own, a Scream Factory edition of it. It's fun to dust off. And
yeah, I don't even think Luke and I have ever discussed. It's one that we've never even brought up. So if Luke and you both recommend it, hey, I'll check it out. I'm down. I'll give it a watch.
Give it a watch. I mean, like, I'm not, telling you it's the best movie ever or anything like that, but we'll give it a watch. Yeah,
you already said it's top tier, best horror movie, better than The Shining. Let's go.
It is, yeah, definitely.
That's the top.
Isn't Paris Hilton in that? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Oh, that's wild, man.
I did know that. That was something that I knew.
There's some vicious things too. If you don't like Paris Hilton, I think you'll be a big fan of the film then. So,
I have no opinion on Paris Hilton.
I wasn't actually speaking to you. I meant in general.
Oh, okay, yeah. I got
this
you.
isn't all about you. Come on.
I'm sorry.
He does this all the time when we're doing videos. It's all about Dylan.
I'm a diva.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a diva.
Diva Dylan. Well,
stick.
Speaking of your guys' videos, man, what are you guys doing here on the YouTube space? Throw it out into the world.
Oh man, we've been dabbling a lot in many different spots, but I think the main sticking point that Luke and I have really fallen into, where we have a lot of fun, is we've been very blessed to have made a lot of connections, and are always opening doors to getting a lot of under the table kind of independent horror films really early. So it's like we're able to kind of watch them and get our opinions out there. So independent horror cinema right now is like popping, and we are constantly saying yes to so many different projects, because I think, like, Luke and I kind of reflected on this a bit, and I'll give him the floor to say it too, is just that we've saw more movies last year than, like, I think we ever have, like, as far as just in 1 year sitting, and just so many things that we never thought we would watch, so many things that we gave chances to that we probably would have passed on, and that's all because of the channel. And, like, that's my favorite part about what we're doing right now, is just giving every budget, every concept a chance. And so we're really diving into independent horror right now.
Yeah, it's something, we're in the seedy back alleys doing deals for those independent horror screeners, but it's been so much fun, where, like, years ago it was like, you see the big films at the theater, and then things start catching fire, and you you start hearing some buzz about some smaller films, and then you eventually catch those. But now it's like the other side of the coin. We get to be there, and we're actually being able to see these screeners prior to them having those wide releases, and kind of being like, oh well, definitely check this out before, once that release date hits, because this is such a great film. And there's a handful even this year that we've seen that have just been a knock out of the park. And being able to cross those off your list and not even know they were going to be on your list at the start of 2024 is just such an absolute pleasure. But, it's one of those things where we never would have guessed we've gotten this far, being able to make the contacts that we have. Just kind of staying our ears to the ground, finding that content. But, we're also pivoting, just so you guys know, into the romantic comedy game.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're gonna start going through all of our favorite romantic comedies, and that was all Luke's idea. And I gotta say, I wasn't for it at first, but he really swayed me once we watched what was that Ben Affleck one, Gillo, whatever it was.
Exactly, that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was the good one. But yeah, we're also experimenting with some new stuff as well. Like I have a new series called The Scenes That Scarred Us, where I'm diving into impactful horror scenes. So like just the ones like the first one I did was on the Terrifier 2, Allie's death, the bedroom kill. Really just want to look into just how they accomplish that stuff and really bring that to the forefront a little bit. And yeah, I mean, other than that, we do a bi-weekly live stream with our buddy Evan from Rockland Graves and Alex from Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. Jake, you're going to be on there at some point, I take it. So
I hope so.
We're really just branching out and honestly just kind of enjoying what we're doing and just trying to figure out what the next step is for us. But I mean, right now, independent horror and just really getting to know our community has really been kind of what we're loving right now.
Nice, man. Well, that's so wonderful to hear. It was Dylan. It was cool to see some movies with you too, out in the wild. So Dylan and I recently found out that we actually live pretty close to each other. So we're going on dates now to go see movies early.
Been nice. Yes,
it's been fun.
We're definitely gonna have to go on another date. Hey, you were invited. You had some. You were busy, but we'll have to go for an extra popcorn bucket if both of you guys come, and that'll be interesting. So
I like it.
Am I part of the Splattercast? Am I part of the Splattercast thruple now? Is that what's going on?
Yes, we're cheating with you all the time on our wives. So it's a fun time. It's a good way. No, my wife would totally be supportive.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm cool with it then. Yeah.
We're here for it. Everyone's just witnessed it, so here we are.
Yeah, we're live on the internet, guys. Yeah, fuck.
Oh shit, I forgot. All right.
Well, listen, everyone, go subscribe to Splattercast. Go check out their stuff. They just hit 2,000 subscribers. Congratulations, dudes.
We appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Very excited to see what you guys have coming up next. And thank you all for watching tonight as we talked a little bit about The Strangers and the upcoming Strangers Chapter 1. I forgot the title. Next Wednesday, I'll be talking about Strangers Pray at Night. Who knows? Maybe these guys will be there. I'm going to try to get even bigger panel to talk about the sequel.
I'm down.
Well, fuck yeah. Let's run it. Let's make it happen. So join us next Wednesday for that. I will be live again on Friday to just do the usual thing. Talk comments, talk about any horror questions you guys have. So join me for that. And as always, guys, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all. Peace. Peace out.